Welcome to Who We Become, Life Beyond Change. I'm your host, Amanda Lentz. This is a space for honest conversations about identity, resilience, and what it really means to rebuild after life changes. Here, we share stories of loss and hope, of challenge and courage, and of becoming someone new, even when life doesn't go as planned and the future feels uncertain. Whether you're navigating illness, grief, transition, or simply searching for meaning after change, you are not alone here. And I'm so glad you're here. Let's begin. Welcome to Who We Become, Life Beyond Change. Today's conversation is one that feels both deeply personal and universally relatable because it invites us into something we don't always talk about openly: what it means to navigate mental health, motherhood, and identity in real time. I'm joined by Kendall Concini, author, advocate, and the voice behind Cloudy Day Chronicles. Kendall is the creator of Mom's Cloud and the Beach Adventure, a children's book born from her own lived experience, trying to explain her emotions, especially the harder ones, to her daughter in a way that felt honest, safe, and loving. What started as a bedtime story became something much bigger, a way to help families talk about sadness, connection, and the reality that we're not always okay. And that's okay. Kendall brings a voice to what it means to parent while navigating your own mental health, how we communicate big feelings to the people we love most, the identity shifts that come with vulnerability and honesty, and how storytelling can become a bridge between isolation and connection. Kendall's work reminds us that clouds don't last forever, but while they're here, we don't have to carry them alone. Kendall, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you. I'm excited to chat with you.
So I'd like to start at the beginning, just starting off with your journey. So can you take me back to the moment or time when Cloudy Day Chronicles started to first take shape? What was happening and what was the inspiration?
So I had always struggled with depression. It was something I was pretty open in my kind of smaller circle with to get the support and help that I needed. And when we took our journey into parenting, a big part of it was, when are we going to talk about this with our kids? Um, I mental health, the conversation and the awareness and all of the love and support, it wasn't generationally something we grew up with where it was so out there and open. It was a lot
Sure.
of, if someone was going through something, they did it at home privately. And I knew I didn't want to hide that from my kids, or later in life be like, hey, the reason mom didn't go or she was in her room was because I was going through this. And so it was about learning how to just normalize it in a sense and be like, yes, dad looks like this, mom looks like this in these moments, and it doesn't change anything in our family. And so when we started having those conversations with my daughter when she was 2, it's because she picked up on those kind of nuances. She can see mom kind of being a little different than how dad was in certain situations. And it started as, how do I explain it to her lightly? Like, I had been going to therapy, I'd been getting diagnoses, and it was, I don't want to tell her those big words and I don't want
Sure.
to scare her in any way or have her feel responsible. So we found this, it was like a rhyming story with a cloud that came and ruined the day and we couldn't play, and it sort of just really resonated with her to understand that. And it just became, more of the chronicles of every day we would sit and talk about, what happened that day, and kind of me also being open to hearing her side of it.
Absolutely. I love that you recognize that the importance of having a conversation so early and bringing her in and hearing her side of how she's feeling and helping her navigate through that. I think that's so impactful and powerful, and I do think that this generation of children is experiencing mental health and those types of conversations a lot differently than older generations.
Yeah, I did a lot of it's dialectic behavior therapy where it's the two things can be true at the same time. And when I grew up, it was the inability to see that negative side in the positive side. So if I had told my parents I'm struggling, it'd be, well, what do you have to struggle about? You know, you have a house, you have food on the table, you have a family who loves you. And it's like, I can have all of that and I can still be struggling. And so when it came to my daughter, I mean, the beach story was natural. I enjoy going to the beach with my family. There is just something about a beach day that is ultimately not my happy place. And so when we would go, I used that to tell her, you know, when we go to the beach and you and dad love it and you play in the water and you do everything at the beach and mom just sits and reads her book and like, I'm there. I'm just there. It's not my thing. That was my way of telling her that sometimes I can be somewhere and we can all love being there together, but it can be different for me than it is for you. And in that talking through it, it was the ability to break that cycle of my parents' generation and say, like, yes, you have a loving home, you have friends and stuff, but are you still sad? Are you still going through something? And learning to ask why and also hearing like what is behind the scenes that I didn't have growing up. Like, I didn't get diagnosed with depression until I was, like, late in early college because that was my ability to go to therapy on my own because it just wasn't something you did, like, it wasn't understood, like, something else can be deeper, and I was like, "Wow, it's not just me being different or broken, it's, you know, something else is going on," and I finally can talk about that.
Wow, and I love that analogy of the beach because that's something, again, that resonates and your daughter understands, and then, you've translated that into something that, is easy for her to pick up on, and I just have to applaud you and commend you for taking ownership, even if it did take till college, but the fact that you recognized it and then you sought help, I think it's okay, right? Even if
Mhm.
we didn't grow up in an environment that talked about that, like you still took initiative to do that. And I think that's really powerful.
It even I have, autoimmune stuff, and I joke with my husband when I go to appointments, I was like, "Please let there be something wrong with me." And he was like, "I don't think that's the way you're supposed to go into appointments." And I told him, I was like, "No, because if they find something, then you can treat something." So if you go somewhere and you get this diagnosis, then there are better steps to treat it. And I found that in my journey of mental health, I was originally diagnosed with generalized anxiety, and the only way they wanted to treat that was medication. But because of all my health stuff, I couldn't take the medication. So I
Oh,
felt like I can't treat a lot of what's going on because nobody's listening. When it shifted to them talking to me about ADHD, and I got a really great therapist, she started using workbooks and the dialectic behavior therapy and different things, and I was like, "I feel so much more comfortable with this diagnosis and these steps than I felt with the other one." And same with, like, the autoimmune stuff. A lot of it's still unknown, I'm still tweaking, but there was one med where they finally put me on it, and I got all of my energy back, and I was like, "Man, if we
wow.
just did this 2 years ago, I wouldn't have been in this kind of state that I'm in now with being untreated for so long." And so I know it's not everyone's point of view, but I'm like, I think that's the problem with all the stigmas we put on mental health is
Mhm.
everyone's scared to get that diagnosis because of what it means. But I'm like, but look at the help you can get when it's a lot easier to search something specific and get your support.
Absolutely. And so when you know, you've navigated through parenting with, you know, physical like autoimmune, recognizing and getting support for the mental health as well. And so, how has caregiving, in the sense of raising your children in this type of very open and communicative relationship, was just beautiful. How how has that changed the way that you show up maybe for others as well?
I think in a sense it's helped me like be easier on myself, and I've been able to help show other people like creating community in a sense to do it together. So a big part of parenting is that guilt of always having to be on. And
Yes.
the big piece is I think most parents struggle with that. um, in mental health, my narrative will will tell me that I struggle more, and it's not like I'm harder on myself because I'm like, oh, I'm only struggling because I have depression. And I'm like, oh no, in reality, everyone's struggling. It's hard to be on 24/7, but because I've approached it from this mental health standpoint, it's almost like a permission slip to be like, "Okay, I can just tell her, like, I can't be on. I have a cloud. I can't play horsey 8,000,000 times today. I need to just focus on what's going on." And because we're open about those, I don't know, like, they're not flaws, but that's what it is assumed they are. It's our ability to just say, "Hey, I can't even right now. I need to tag out. I need to deal with this." And so I've been able to take that and kind of create this community and this shared language around it too. It's sort of, telling a friend, do we want to hang out? And it's like, no, I don't have the energy to actually deal with wrangling the kids and doing this. And that understanding that that is okay. Like, we don't have to expect someone to be like, no, we were supposed to hang out. You have to come. Like, no, just tell me you can't even. And so it's the more open we are about that, we have to realize, like, we set these kind of standards and bars for ourselves in parenting, and we shouldn't. Like, it's all our first time trying this out, and I was talking the other day with someone about just the reality too of being kind in the fact that some things in life I just, like, inherently don't do, and for some reason in the definition of a good parent, it's like, yes, I like planning. I don't like math. I don't like doing schoolwork and stuff. So this expectation that I'm supposed to be this parent when my kid is home to suddenly have this perfect environment of homeschooling or something. I'm like, I wouldn't do that for myself anyways. Like, why do I have to do it as a parent? And trying to not find the guilt of like adding something that I wouldn't have in my life anyways, suddenly because I'm a parent. And so it's that idea of how it shifted my mentality is saying, like, just that ease of trying to remove that guilt and shame and just be upfront about, like, "Listen, I knew I was gonna struggle as a parent. I never expect it to be, a gentle, easy parent. I expect it to be a chaotic mess who just tells my kids, like, 'This is hard for me. Let's
Yeah.
get through this together.'" And in that, find, like, the motivation to redefine what our parenting looks like.
I love that. And you touched on something is just that invisible load or that invisible expectation that we just inherently put on ourselves. And I'm fully with you. I cry and I break out in hives when my kids come home with math problems because it's not my strong suit. But here, society thinks that I should be the one doing all of the things. And it's just, I love that you are reframing that and helping to reframe expectations and having those conversations with your friends also. So everyone's aligned and gives themselves a little bit more grace as well.
It's always fun if we go somewhere like water. I am not the water parent, and it is interesting because I am the, like, adventure parent. I will take my kids to the water park, but I don't wanna get in. And my daughter knows that, and she completely respects it, and so it's funny if we're out somewhere with a friend and they'll be like, "Oh, like, are you and mom gonna go in?" And she'll be like, "No, mom doesn't go in the water." And, like, they get shocked by it. They're like, "What do you mean?" And she's like, "Mom just doesn't water." And then she'll also have my back. She'll be like, "No, you have to go in with me because mom doesn't like to." And I was like, "I love it." I'm like, "Yeah, girl, you got me." And I was like, "She doesn't care. Why do you care? Like, why do
Yes.
you care that I'm not getting in the water? Like, if my daughter's not like, 'My mom's a horrible mom, she doesn't go in the water,' then why are you assuming that?" I was like, "She just knows it and rolls with it, and the whole secret reason we brought you was for you to go do it." Like, and so it's been that kind of, like, I've been upfront with her, like, "No, I don't like this. That's a dad thing," or like, "That's a grandparent thing." And I'm like, she has learned that that is completely normal and she knows who to ask. And I think that's the same for me. I know and have learned who to support me based on what is going on in my life. And all I'm doing is teaching that to her earlier. Like, she's going to have her best friends for different things. And let's start teaching her that for her parents, for her friends, how to get support, and also when to entertain herself too.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, there's people there's a phrase that I think about often is people come into your life for a reason, a season, or a lifetime, and there's different reasons for people to be around you, and you have to be okay with that. Not everyone can give you everything you need, especially in the sense of caregiving too. Everyone brings us a different strength and a different perspective. And so I love how are having those conversations with your daughter. You're really resetting expectations with those in your life as well. So, if someone listening wants to better support a caregiver in their life, or as a caregiver, they want to help advocate for themselves more like you're doing, what what would you say to them? What does that support look like, or what would that conversation look like?
I have been sharing a lot about this recently, and a big part of it is whatever term people like from therapy. There's like the idea of the love languages, the idea of I have worked really hard with my husband to kind of learn to ask me, do you want solution or comfort? And when I have a problem, he will ask me, like, do you want me to step in or do you just need to vent? And it's that kind of to ask a caregiver, like, do you need help with language? Because a really big piece that I took on in the beginning of like parenting and stuff is the guilt of my husband's going to want to take care of me when a cloud comes because he loves me. But I also feel really bad that, in a sense, if I can't even help myself because it's there, I don't want to put the pressure on him to have to help me. And that was a big part of all of the cloud was like, don't look at it as fixing me because that's a lot to take on. Like, it's not in a sense fixable. Like, I've had depression my whole life. I don't see it as one day I'm not going to have it. I see it as I'm going to learn to live with it and we can learn those little moments. And so for me, the big piece was just sitting down on a sunny day and saying, let's talk about the language when it starts to happen. So if a cloud rolls in, I don't want you to have to take on the brunt and responsibility. So just ask, solution or comfort. And then also just acknowledging, like, do I need space? Do I need you here? And so we created essentially like this mental health kind of care kit that
Oh,
was how to kind of start at the beginning and identify, like, clouds were easy because it was he can ask me not why the cloud is here because sometimes I don't even know, but he can ask me, like, is it a storm cloud? Is it just it's here and you don't know yet? And we kind of start to tweak that. What do I think I'm gonna need? But also me giving a kindness, like, I don't wanna put it all on you because that is hard on him too.
I love that. Having that conversation with your husband or your partner, whoever in your life is supporting you, and being able to clearly articulate before another cloud comes, I think is so incredibly powerful. And what a great toolkit um, to have that you use and you implement. I think that's amazing.
And it doesn't always work, I make sure to say that. So, there are some days, because I mean, it's still my husband and we're still gonna have those little, like, spats. So, I remember there was one day where I was just, like, in the middle of chaos and I was like, A cloud's here, like, leave me alone." And he had asked, "Do you want solution or comfort?" And I was just like, "Give me both, like, what do you got?" And he was like deer in headlights. He's like, "I didn't expect you." He's like, "Well, I actually only had comfort. I thought you were just gonna, like, go off by yourself." And I was like, "Oh, no, give me your solution. Like, how are you gonna fix this?" And later I was like, "Sorry, that was really unfair, but I knew you didn't have a solution. I just wanted to, like, get you." And so, like, there are the times where it's gonna be like, I have no idea what I want, but we also kinda have to sit and be like, "Yeah, let's laugh about it later. Right now, we're just gonna sit in it."
Yeah. I think it's important too, right? There's no perfect days, there's no perfect conversations, but building that, that trust again, that your husband, you and your husband can laugh about it later on, because you have the framework and the language to be able to express. And so now, talking about life beyond, you've created this beautiful framework and stories of how to express, how to communicate with your children, with others in your life. And so being a caregiver can be a lot. I know it's especially as a parent. And so what does a sustainable life look like for you now? And so in this season of life where you're caregiving, what does that look like for you?
Ugh, I there was a joke that was like, "I wanna build a strong, independent woman in my daughter, but I wanted it when she was, like, in college out of here." 'Cause she is just I I love her language that clicked in, like, it took me a while to really take ownership of that and be like, "Yeah, I did that from being open with her." But there's also some moments where her and I will, like, start having deep and she's 4, so we'll have these deeper, like, 14-year-old conversations, and I'll look at my husband and be like, "Is that what it's like to argue with me? Because that is awful." Or she'll give me sass and I'll look at her face. So I was like, "Your face is my face, so I can handle it." Um, and it's just this I'm I'm so proud of how aware they are. I had gotten a question recently of like, am I nervous about self-fulfilling prophecy? Am I worried that because I'm giving her all of this stuff and content, is she going to start to think like, oh, well, I have this because we talk about this so much? And I sat with it because I was like, no, I'm actually like excited because I feel like so much of what we carry in that mom guilt and shame and responsibilities is that generational difference of we weren't open enough to talk about it. So we buried it all. We took it all on. It's the
Yep.
invisible load. We have learned to just settle and do. And I was like, she is not gonna do that. She is going to like push and question and do everything because I've started to motivate her to notice everything. And I'm also different in the respect of if she wants to come to me and challenge all of this, it like me being okay to take that and be like, "All right, what's going on? What can I do better?" And so what it looks like next is I'm just excited to see the difference in who we are as people because she has this openness that I didn't have. And it's like that joke, like, I'm scared, like, is she gonna use it for good or and I'm like, but I know it's just gonna be so different in even the relationship. Like the first time she's gonna come to me when she's older with some deep problem that I never went to my parents about. And I'm like, I'm ready for it.
That's beautiful. Yeah, you're setting your daughter up for success. You're building such a strong relationship now because when those hard times come and she's navigating through challenges, she'll know that you're there as a safe space. And so I know you do a lot of advocacy and a lot of talk within mental health space. And so how do you protect your emotional bandwidth as you continue to show up for others?
I I did a project with a group called Drop Dead Generous, and the idea is they were giving grants to people to go do acts of kindness out in the world. And then every month we do this circle thingy, it's literally called. And they had posted about noticing that most people have an easier time doing for others than kind of accepting someone doing for them. I was like, I agree with that completely because there is just something that fills my cup with so long kind of when you feel alone in mental health or you feel alone in your struggles and you unlock this. I'm meeting fantastic people. I'm podcasting. I'm doing like different outreach and community building. And I'm able to kind of turn and create community in that sense. And so I see it as like during my book launch, I made a speech where it's like, I'm still going to have clouds, but they're not going to be as dark. And it is this idea that I can be aware that I can still struggle, but I can also choose what to do with that struggle. And I can share the story with a group and make someone else feel not alone. And I can kind of know where I can go for support and how to support others. And so it's just this what is changing for me is changing it from being like kind of just mental health struggles and awareness to mental health like advocacy and just constant community building with it.
I love that. And what surprised you most? You talked about building this community. What surprised you most about the caregiving community or the community of others who are advocating for mental health awareness as well?
Um, I want to say like numbers. I think because I was so focused on like the taboo of it, then you don't really see everything that's out there. And so when I had been looking for something like my book and I'm like looking and looking, I was like, nobody's talking about this, nobody's doing this. So then I made it. And when I made it and I started finding resources and hearing like small groups doing something similar and just being like, why are we all small and quiet? Like, let's elevate. And so it really surprised me even in my book launch, like, we had posted it and I had just kinda posted what I was doing and how many, like, friends and family that I didn't expect to, like, resonate because that's not who my audience was. I was like, "Okay, this is for the, like, strangers out on Reddit at 2 AM too." It was just seeing more of it in the world around me and then all of the groups I've been able to meet, and you meet one person and they introduce you to someone else, and just going like, wow, it's not as small and taboo as I had learned it was.
And how can people connect with you? Where can they find your book? How can they get access to resources or even become an advocate for mental health?
Yeah, so I made my life easy. Everything is Cloudy Day Chronicles. So the Instagram is Cloudy Day Chronicles. The website is .org. So cloudydaychronicles.org. Substack is Cloudy Day Chronicles on Substack. On the blog, which is the .org, that's where I'm sharing resources and just those personal stories to kind of say this is a moment where it felt like this. Substack is I'm sharing more of resource highlights. So we're doing individual stories on different resources I've met to kind of share. I know I've
Oh,
shared about like grief and I've shared a merriment maker and I'm this month I'm doing a therapist. And so it's just sort of creating all these opportunities for here's different things out there. And then we're doing a pay it forward program. So we sell the book on our website and proceeds from that give us the ability to do acts of kindness, whether that's donating the
oh,
book or donating proceeds, or we literally go out and do acts of kindness missions with our merriment maker. And so it's just been a really great everything is some aspect of paying it forward and resource sharing.
that's just absolutely beautiful. And I'm so excited and to see the work that you continue to do and the impact that you and the group and the community that you're bringing together continues to have.
Thank you.
So, Kendall, in closing, I just want to say thank you. And for anyone listening, if this conversation resonated with you, you're not alone. Kendall's story is such a powerful reminder that honesty, especially around mental health, doesn't create distance, it creates connection. Through her work with Cloudy Day Chronicles and her book, Mom's Cloud and the Beach Adventure, she's helping families have conversations many of us never learned how to have about sadness, support, and showing up for each other without shame. So, if today's episode spoke to you, I encourage you to share it with someone who might need it. or start a conversation you've been avoiding, or simply sit with the reminder that even cloudy days can hold light. And if you want to connect with Kendall, please reach out to her with the resources that she shared and grab her book. And so, thank you for being here, for listening, and for continuing to explore who we become on the other side of change. Thank you so much, Kendall.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining me today on Who We Become. I hope this conversation reminded you that growth isn't always easy, but it is always meaningful. If this episode resonated with you, please share it with someone who might need it. And if you haven't already, be sure to follow, rate, and review the show. It truly helps these stories reach those who may need a reminder they are not alone. Remember, what happened to you is part of your story, but it is not the end of it. You are not defined by what happened to you. You are shaped by how you rise. Until next time, take care of yourself and keep becoming who you're meant to be.